Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Richmond Guides Travel Talks. My name is Jonathan. I am your travel guru here, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about the second ship of the Virgin Voyages Fleet, the Valiant Lady. And we're going to go over just the overall ship itself, a little bit of itineraries, and a few other things. We'll have another episode that will talk about the actual review of the restaurants and some tips and tricks that you will want to keep in mind when you are traveling on the Valiant Lady or any of its sister ships. So to begin, let's actually talk about the Valiant Lady itself. Now, she entered service in 2021. That was when the Virgin Voyages actually took her on after her construction. Her maiden voyage was on March 18th, 2022. And she's not that big of a ship. She's only 912 feet long, which is around the length of the Magic and Wonder from Disney Cruise Line. And she's 125 feet wide. So she is fairly wide compared to the other ships, but she's not that massive. When you look at the gross tonnage, she's only 108,000 gross tons. Now, the decking system on here, there are 17 total decks, 13 of those being passenger decks. And the decks for guests range from deck 4 up to deck 17. We'll get into a little bit more on what's each deck in just a moment. With all 4 of the Virgin Voyages ships, with their all being identical, they also have the same passenger capacities. They have 2,700 passenger capacity, and they have 1,160 crew. So this is a pretty good ratio when you're talking about crew to passengers. One of the best I've seen on most cruise lines. Now, Valiant Lady, when she came into service, she's had many different itineraries. But as of right now, her current itineraries are ranging from 4 to 8 nights out of Miami. And this will kind of go until fall of 2025. So later this year, when she moves to San Juan. As she moves to San Juan, her trips are going to get longer. And into next year, she'll be, in summer 26, she'll be having a European vacation. And she'll have voyages all the way up to 15 nights. Now, when you get on any of these Virgin Voyages ships, you're going to walk onto deck 7 is going to be where you arrive, and right into the roundabout. The roundabout is a nice, massive area where you can hang. It actually has a bunch of spaces that are connected, and we'll talk more about those spaces in just a moment. But there's also a massive staircase that goes down to deck 6. Whenever you're going off the ship for any ports or any tenders, you are going to be exiting on deck 4. This is the lowest deck that you can access as a sailor. Yes, you're called a sailor, not a guest on board. You're called a sailor. There are 3 different sets of elevators. I am talking about this on the Virgin Voyages because it's quite unique how these elevators are. The forward elevator only goes from deck 4 to deck 16. The midship one does the longest. It goes from deck 4 to deck 17. And the aft one, oddly enough, only goes deck 6 to deck 15. It was one of the weirdest things when I found that out. I just avoided the aft elevator for most of the time because there's only 2 elevators there. Now, the cabins. Now, they call them cabins, not staterooms. What you need to keep in mind, and this is something I want to keep a big safety factor, because if you don't remember which side of the ship you're on, that's what's going to make it easy to get in or out of your cabin. How they label the cabins are completely different than every other cruise line. The lower your number is, the further back in the ship you are. The higher the number, the forward in the ship you are. So unlike most cruise lines where it's lower in the front, higher in the back, if you go more starboard, or if you go more aft, it's a lower number. If you go more forward, it's a higher number. The bigger thing is knowing what letter you are. Are you A, are you M, or are you Z? Because stateroom numbers tend to be the same on both sides. And when you look at the deck plans, you can see the exact same number on the port side and the exact same number on the starboard side. But the difference here is A versus Z. A is going to be for your port side, so when you're facing the front of the ship, it's to the left. And when you're facing the front of the ship, to the right is your starboard. These are your Z, or they would say Z in the UK. With this, you'll see massive doors on the sides of each of the elevator shafts and the stairwells. You'll see A, you'll see Z. So make sure you're going to the right side that you need to for your stateroom. Now let's talk about the restaurants and eateries, because Virgin Voyages has 20 plus restaurants and eateries for you to enjoy throughout their ships. And one thing I do want to keep in mind is that there are certain restaurants that you do have to book in advance, or you can get a walk-up reservation for them. If you want to get certain restaurants guaranteed, my suggestion, when the 120-day window opens, book your restaurants for that ship. Here are a few of those restaurants that you can book. You can book at Pink Agave or Razzle Dazzle on Deck 5. You can book at Extra Virgin or the Test Kitchen on Deck 6. You can also book for the Wake, which is Deck 7, but it's technically on Deck 6. Or you can book for Gambay. Man, I can never pronounce that one correctly, but it's up on Deck 15. Just talking briefly about these. Pink Agave is a Mexican-style restaurant. Amazing food quality. We'll talk more about that on another day. Razzle Dazzle is a vegetarian fronted with a little bit of meat cheating in it. More of like elevated style and stuff. Gunbai is a Mongolian style restaurant in which you have some of the foods cooked in front of you, similar to hibachi and teppanyaki style, but not exactly the same. It is a fun environment. You have the Wake, which is their upscaled seafood and steakhouse. You also have the Test Kitchen, which they are doing different styles of food in different ways. And then you have Extra Virgin, which is their elevated Italian style restaurant. Throughout the ship, there are a bunch of other eateries as well. There's actually quite a few number of them on Deck 7. You have Lick Me Till, Ice Cream. Yeah, some interesting names they have. You have the Dock House and the Dock, which are very close to each other. Similar meals for them. You have the Pizza Place. You have the Social Club. And then up on Deck 15, you actually have a wide variety of options in what they call the Galley. This is a food hall style. In the Galley, you have the Daily Mix, Diner and Dash, Bento Baby, Burger Bar, Let's Taco About It, Hot Off the Press, Noodle Around, The Sweet Side, Bake Me, and they also have Grounds Club 2, which is the second version of the Grounds Club, which is on Deck 7. The Grounds Club is their specialty coffee location. You can have specialty coffees made. You can get some pastries and stuff like that. It's a nice space to chill and relax. But on Grounds 2, that's their version that's up on Deck 15. So in this galley, there are different like food stalls for like a giant food hall. So the Daily Mix has a bunch of different like salads and stuff. You've got Diner and Dash is open 24 hours a day, in which you can get any kind of breakfast made there any time of day. You have the Burger Bar, which they have different burgers and stuff throughout the day, and they got pancakes for breakfast. You have Bento Baby. They make bento boxes with different things in it every day. You have Hot Off the Press, which is sandwiches you can put into, they can toast it up for you, or they're already pre-made. Let's Taco About It. Tacos. Need I say more? Noodle Around, a ramen location. And the Sweet Side and Bake Me are right next to each other. They are the same. It's like pastries and stuff like that. Now we're getting into some of the good stuff that a lot of people are talking about. So you've got the bars and lounges throughout. On Deck 6, you've got On the Rocks Bar, which is right next to the Roundabout. You have on Deck 7, you have the Loose Cannon, which is right next to the Social Club. You have the Draft House. You have the Sip Lounge, which are both on Deck 7 as well. And then up on Deck 15, you've got the Athletic Club. Actually, sorry, that's Deck 16. The Athletic Club and the Aquatic Club are very similar. There's 2 decks difference. And then you have the Gym and Tonic Bar on Deck 15 and the Sun Club Bar on Deck 16. So those are different bars if you wanted to get an alcoholic beverage, not counting the casino bar because there's obviously a bar in the casino. Some areas that you can hang out, or there are different entertainment venues. This is the pièce de résistance, because there's quite a few number of areas that you can just relax or you can enjoy things. The prime area that has like the primary shows and stuff is called the Red Room. This space is a flexible space. It's amazing. It's cool to see because they can actually change it from a single-sided stadium, and it's showing like a theater, to double-sided theater, to a giant dance floor space. It's quite interesting seeing what they do with this space. And this spans decks 6 and 7. You also have the Manor, which is spanning decks 6 and 7. Your entrance is primarily on deck 6. As I mentioned, the main area you enter into on the ship is called the Roundabout. This is spanning deck 6 and 7. It's a giant circular staircase that goes up from deck 7 down to deck 6. You have the groupie at the front of deck 7. This is a area that you can either rent out the space, or if it's public open, you can easily go in and you can do some karaoke. You also have Voyage Vinyl, where you can listen to vinyl music and purchase your very own vinyl music as well. On deck 7 as well, you have the arcade, which is next to the social club. When you walk into the social club, go past the food place to cross from the loose cannon. Unlimited video arcade games. In there, you can find games like Miss Pac-Man, you can find Street Fighter, you can find the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Defender. Like, there's quite a few number of games that are in there. The one thing I do want to mention about the social club is that it is an area that you can just hang out and chill, and you can grab some board games. There's shuffleboard there. You can also grab a bite to eat. There's wings, there's hot dogs, there's popcorn, there's pretzels. So there's a wide variety of things that you can just grab as like a snack kind of thing there. Now let's jump to the top decks. On deck 15, you actually have quite a few number of open spaces. You have the Aquatic Club, which is where you have the pools. You do have one pool space and then a couple of different hot tubs and stuff like that. You also have the B Complex Burn and Bike side and the B Complex Burn, Build, and Balance side. So they split up the gym basically into two sections here on deck 15 midship. Moving up to deck 16, you have the sports area, which is a caged-in area, a bunch of different sports options you can do there. You have the athletic club. You have the net, which is an area that you could just lay out over top, and you look down and you see the dock down there, which is the deck 7. You also have a training camp. And then up on deck 17, you have the perch, a nice area to sit peacefully and meditate. And around that, you have the runway, which is a running track that you can go around at the top of the ship and have a nice view of everything. One of the other things that is on the outside of the ship is the exclusive for Rockstar Suites, the Richards Rooftop. So this area is at the front of the ship on deck 16. It's a nice area for people to relax and to enjoy. Now, I have not been able to experience it. Hopefully at some point, once I have a Rockstar Suite or get invited, I could probably see it, but it looks to be pretty nice to relax in. One of the last things I want to talk about is the shops. There are a lot of different shops and stores that you can go to. Starting down on deck 6, you have the High Street area. This is where you can purchase a bunch of different retail options, higher end items. You have the Necessities shop. You have Virgin Voyages shop. You have Stubble and Groom, which is the barber there. You have a Booty Free shop, which is for duty free items. You have the Dry Dock. You have Squid Ink, which was the first tattoo parlor at sea. You can get piercings there as well. You also have Sailor Services on deck 5. You have the Redemption Spa on deck 5, and that's tied in with the tune-up on deck 15, which is for pedicures and manicures. I do want to also reiterate that I did say earlier that all these ships are exactly the same, all 4 of them. They were built exactly the same, but there are differences between them. And the key difference is the artwork throughout. So when you go on these ships, it's completely different artwork. Like on Valiant Lady, there's 2 staircases that go from deck 15 to deck 16, and there's giant scoops of ice cream just melting in there. And there's just artwork throughout. So make sure you take the time enjoy the artwork, look at everything, and see how different it is between each of the ships. And the biggest thing I want to mention is that the crew makes the difference. There are 12 happenings casts, which deals with all the entertainment. I will talk a little bit more about these happening cast crew in a different episode at some point when I compare different cruise lines. But overall, Virgin Voyages is very consistent on their ships. They have an amazing layout for their ships. There's no confusion once you understand how their cruise line works. But that's everything I have for you guys today on the Valiant Lady and Virgin Voyages ships, the overall overview of the design of the ships. I hope you guys did enjoy this episode. If you haven't done so yet, hit the like button or give us a review. Make sure you're subscribed to us here. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, X, on TikTok, on YouTube, and whatever podcast you guys are listening to. Just make sure you're following us because every single piece supports us for growing. And if you are interested in a future vacation, make sure you reach out to me at richmondguides.com, and I will see you guys in the next adventure. Bye-bye, everybody.